Hello everybody, this is Matt Miranda, the Guadalupe County 4-H agent. Today I'm going to do a quick training on the record book process for county record books. First thing is first, they will be due June the 13th here at the extension office. You print them out, you turn them in. We will have the green record book covers like you see on the picture right there available. I believe they are $3 a piece, and that is just the cost that it is for us to buy them from the council. So before we get started with this training, if you ever have any questions on record books, please send them to me in an email, call me, text me, whatever you need to. If you need to come by here at the office and set up an appointment with me, you're more than welcome to. That way we can get your answers answered, or your questions answered for the record book process. The purpose of the record book is pretty simple. It's to show how the 4-Hers have grown throughout the year and over the years. Each year you can build on your record book. It's an opportunity to keep a written record of what you've done in 4-H, which is really important when it comes to scholarships. And all of our 4-H scholars will tell you, the more that they had in their record book, the easier it was for them to fill out this application, just because of the type of records that are required for those scholarship applications. So it gives you a chance to set some goals for the year and to see if you met those goals or you didn't meet those goals. And then it gives you an opportunity for competition at the county, district, and state level. If you're a senior level 4-Her and you win the state record books, then you are qualified to go on a trip to Washington, D.C. around Thanksgiving every year. But there's lots of different things that you can do as a result of filling out a record book. For goal setting, the first thing you should do when you're doing your record book is set some goals. You want to have those goals in place. That way, did you do in 4-H what you were hoping you would do this year? Write down different things throughout the year. I know we're coming down to the end of the 4-H year, but most everybody keeps some kind of record of what they've done in 4-H throughout the year. And then it gives you a chance to reflect on some of those things that you've done as well. For the record book itself, there are different types of record books for different ages. So it's all the same forms, but there's different informations that are required for different age groups. So I will have a link posted or I'll put it in the newsletter for everything on what juniors are required to have, intermediates, and seniors. But basically they build on themselves. For the juniors, you're required a minimum of 2 pages, a maximum of 8 pages for the 4-H story. There are 3 different parts to the record book. The first is the personal information page. That is 1 page, and it will have all of the information on the person that's entering the record book. There is a 4-H story and photo portfolio, which is a written story that the 4-Her writes, and you can include photos in there. It needs to have photos in there, but they can be included in the text or they could be after the text. It is up to your personal preference. And then there are the record form sections that you have to fill out that are in most cases already pre-formatted, but we'll talk a little bit about those sections here in just a second. There's a check sheet that you can put in the front of your record book. It is not required. If you don't have one in there when you turn it in, that's fine. We'll put one in there when we judge it. But this is not a required part of the record book any longer. On your personal information page, you can see here it's got the name of the 4-Her, age division, number of years, your address, whereabouts you live in the community, and then the 4-Her and the parent both have to sign that record book. You need to use the most up-to-date form, and again, I will have the link to that in there. If your form is asking for how many kids are in your 4-H club, that's an old version of the form. You don't need that one. It does ask what your 4-H club is, but you don't have to put the number of 4-Hers in your club and all that kind of good stuff. You do have to put, though, the number of years that you've been in 4-H and the number of years you've been in your main 4-H project. On your 4-H story and photo portfolio, this should be named My 4-H, if you have a beef project, My 4-H Beef Story and Photo Portfolio. It doesn't have a different name. That is what it is called. So that'll be your heading at the top of that page. And this story would include information about yourself, your family, your community, when you and why you joined 4-H, what the goals are, and it's important to list what your goals are, were, have been, all those kinds of things, because there is a metric on the judging sheet that asks about project goals. Talk about how 4-H has helped you become a better leader. You can talk about stories that have happened in your 4-H career this year. How has it helped you set goals, develop new interests? Has it influenced your career plans? All of those kinds of things are good to put in there. Now, when you name it, it would be My 4-H, project, story, and photo portfolio. You can include a subtitle. I always did that as a 4-Her, but you can include a subtitle underneath that. Just make sure that it has those elements in there. It should not just be a rehashing of what is written in the forms. Okay, some of those things can be the same. If you got to go to a national contest this year, you kind of want to talk about that in your 4-H story. If you had some cool experiences that are reduced to just 1 or 2 lines in your forms, talk about it in your story. This is where you get to actually expand on your story and tell everybody, what you did in 4-H this year. There is a certain number of pages that the story can be for juniors, for intermediates, and seniors. If you should type it. It says you can handwrite your record book, but my suggestion would be to type it out. It needs to be a minimum of a 10-point font. Double space your text. You don't want to use you can use colored text, but don't use any really light colors, no pinks, no yellows, no light greens or blues. Darker colors are better because it's easier to read on a white sheet of paper. You can place photos throughout the story. You can put captions on them if you would like. That is totally up to you. It does not need captions. You can also put all the photos at the end of the story, so have a lot of text and then put your photos at the end. The choice is yours. This is one part where you get to be a little bit creative. Just watch the creativity when it comes to doing this on scrapbooking paper and things like that, because those are notoriously hard to turn the page. Elements of it fall off, things like that. The report form is going to be the same for all age divisions. The same content is required. The number of entries that you can do varies for some of the forms, and so we'll go into some of those here in a few minutes. But basically, you will have this year's and 3 preceding calendar years in your record book forms. For section 1, and we'll have an example up here in a second, it is about your 4-H, your main 4-H projects. You can have up to 4 projects for the current year and the 3 previous years. For juniors and intermediates, you're limited to 3 pages to put this information on. For seniors, you have up to 4 pages to put this information on. And when you look at the forms online, it is just a blank form. It does not say what kind of format to put it in. It doesn't give you any suggestions or hints or tips of what kind of information. But these are all those 4-H learning experiences that you've had for your main 4-H projects. So you're going to separate it out by year, first of all. And then you're going to have each project, each of those 4 projects that you've done for each year. Okay? Because the main thing that they want to see here is that you have grown from year to year, that you've done new things over the years. And so that's what we're going to be looking for. So let's see on the next slide. Here's an example of what it could look like. You see, this would be for a leadership project. I have a little block of text here that talks about like what some of the major things in my leadership project were this year. I have a box that has, number of hours worked, people reached, any research hours, people taught, number of experiences that I've done. This is all just hypothetical. This can look however you would like it to. However, having a format with some tables is always a good idea because it helps break up the text. You don't want to see, you've already written your story. You don't want to put a whole additional story of just text in this section. Okay. Also, there's no photos that are allowed in this section. This is just tables, charts, graphs, and then some information about your project. And you can see on there, I have it separated out by year as to, what different things that I have done in 4-H that year. So just keep an eye on that. If you need suggestions of how to format it, send it to me. Put in there the information and I'll help you out. Section 2 is about your leadership experiences. Now this one does have a preset format. It includes the year of the experience, leadership activity, role, responsibilities. What did you do to help other people? It did take away the number of people and hours that you led or worked on it. You can include that in there in the little part where you're describing different things. Again, it's up to this year and the 3 preceding years. For juniors, you can enter 10 entries, intermediates 15 entries, and seniors, you can enter 25 entries. Juniors, it has to fit on 1 page, intermediates on 2 pages, and seniors onto 3 pages. On this section, you'll also, it'll be a lot like the leadership section. Community service section also has a chart that you fill out, and those are all going to be in there. As with the leadership section and the community service section, both will have the level of the experience that you've done, so county, district, state, national, etc. Again, it removed the number of people hours. The community service page is focused on, what did you do and how did it help people? What's the relevance of it? Okay, so put those kind of things in there, and it is the same layout for the or the same number of pages for the sections as section 2, 10 entries and 1 page for juniors, 15 entries and 2 pages for seniors or for intermediates, and then 25 entries and 3 pages for seniors. So just keep an eye. There are instructions on the top of each page that kind of tell you what needs to go in there, so make sure to read those. But this is just for community service. This is how you have helped people. And there are 3 codes that reflect: did you do the project by yourself? That would be a Y. Did you provide primary leadership? Were you in charge of that project? That would be a P. And then a member of a group, when you helped, were you part of just another group helping? And so that would be an M. So this is not for citizenship experiences. This is for straight community service. So what did you do to help people? Usually things like presenting at an ag fair is not community service. That is a type of leadership. It's promotion leadership or some other type of leadership, but it's leadership. This would be donations, volunteering at a event, serving food, all of those kinds of things. Section 4 is other project experiences that you've had. So if you have more than 4 projects, if you only have 2 projects, I would suggest putting 1 project in section 1 and 1 project in section 4. If you don't have anything in section 4, you won't get credit for it on the judge's sheet. Okay, so you should be involved in at least 2 projects in 4-H. If you're just starting out for the first time and this is your first time to do a record book, or it's your first year in 4-H, do not worry about it. Okay, the main thing that they want to see is growth from year to year. Okay, so you can say, I only had 1 project this year because this is what I do in 4-H and I don't have time to do other things, and that's something you can explain in your story. From a formatting perspective, Try to format it the same way you formatted section 1. However you decided to format section 1 should be how you format section 4. And for juniors, you can have 1 page, and for intermediates and seniors, you can have 2 pages. But it can be any number of projects that you can fit into those pages. That is a duplicate page, so we don't have to worry about that. I think it's just on here to show, like, if you're gonna put whatever you format section 1 like, also format section 4 the same way. Section 5 is your awards and recognition. So this is any awards, any ribbons, any honors that you've got in 4-H. They're all going to go in there. You can have 10 entries in 1 page for juniors, 15 entries and 2 pages for seniors, and 25 entries and 3 pages for seniors. I'm sorry, it's 15 and 2 for the intermediates. Keep in mind, I say this is all good stuff to have for your scholarship application. The amount of awards and recognition you can put in your scholarship application is 4 out of your whole 4-H career. So this would be a good way to be able to go back and look, okay, what are my 4 most important awards that I've had during my time in 4-H. Section 6 is your non-4-H activities. And this would be anything that you've done outside of 4-H. FFA, church, scouting, whatever you've done outside of 4-H, school activities, put in this section. It is only 1 page for all ages, I believe. But you can put, lots of things in there. It shows that you're a well-rounded individual. You're not just in 4-H, you're doing other things as well. Section 7 is the career and college exploration page. And so this is a page that will have information about things that you have done in 4-H that have, guided you towards a career, or something. If you're interested in a career of any kind, what are some things that you've done that have, given you some training in that area? Job shadowing, internships, research, going to classes, different things like that. And it is 10 entries in 1 page for juniors. Intermediates, it is 15 entries in 2 pages, and seniors, it is 15. It's more than, I think it's 25. Sorry, and 2 pages. The information's a little incorrect on there. Again, it tells you at the top of the page what the instructions are for that year. Now, when you turn in your record book, the judge is going to look for certain things. They're going to be looking for, growth from year to year. If this is your first year, tell them, this is my first year. I'm doing this for the first time. They want to see the quality of your experiences, and not just that you've been to 10 million experiences, but what did you learn? What did you do? How did you do it? Those kinds of things. When we judge record books, we do take into account how long that 4-H'er's been doing the project. So if you've had a really stellar year and this is your first year in 4-H, your first year in that project, that's taken into account. If you've been in 4-H for 4 years and you've been doing the same project every year and you're not really doing anything new from year to year, that is something that they look at as well. Very often 4-H'ers do stuff for their projects that is not in a traditional 4-H project setting. You might go to a showmanship clinic, those kinds of things. And those are all good things that you can put in your record book as learning experiences. If you are a part of like a breed association for livestock, okay, those would be non-4-H experiences. But if you go to a training that they put on, then you can put that experience in for your beef project, if you had a beef project. Another thing would be, if you are doing learning experiences online, you're not going to automatically say because you read something online that it is a international level experience or national level experience. It needs to be a recognized national or international experience to be counted as that. If you ever have questions, if you have questions for anything that you're trying to enter in your record book, please let us know. Send me an email and say, hey, where do I put this? What do I call this? And I will help you out with it. Record books are very subjective. And so we try to help y'all as much as possible to where you're getting the right information in there. This is just a quick look at the score sheet. You can find the score sheet online as well. Each section has a score to it, so try to make sure when you're filling out your record book that each of those, especially if you're filling out a record book for competition purposes, that each of your record books, each section has some of this information that it's looking for in there. If you have that, it's hard to give it a bad score if it has everything that it needs. All types of covers for your record book. You know, if you have a 3-ring blue braided folder, you can enter a record book in that. We do have a number of the 4-H record book covers here, but we do run out, so the quicker you come and buy one, the better. But that is something that we charge just the base price. I think it's $3 a book. That way we can buy new ones for next year. So one thing about the record books, when you are turning in the record books, you're not just turning in your record book for competition. You can also, when you turn it in for us, we will also get you a project pin and a year pin that'll be given to you at the end of the 4-H banquet this year. This just shows that you were involved in that project this year. If you have done a record book, let's say on the swine project for 9 years, and you would like a project pin other than the swine project pin, because you know there's so many swine project pins you can get, you can always tell us when you turn it in, hey, I'd like to have a project pin for my beef project, and we'll still give you a project pin, but we'll give it to you for that beef project. That way it's not just the same pin that you're getting every year, but you have to let us know. In addition, when you're turning in your record book, it also qualifies you to apply for things like our county 4-H awards. There's an application and interview process as well, but one of the prerequisites is that you turn in a record book, because we judge that for those awards as well. So, and all of that information I will have also in the newsletter and online. That way you know when the deadlines are for all of those. But that is another way, another thing that comes from filling out your record book. A couple of general guidelines. Handwriting your record book is okay. I would not suggest it because they don't tend to do well with judging a district. You can type a lot more in there than you can write in these forms. As for grammar and punctuation, write your stories, all that kind of good stuff. Have people read it, because they do take off for grammar and punctuation, especially when it comes to tiebreakers and things like that. Your margins should be 1.5 on the left and 1 on the rest of the sides. You should, and your font should not be smaller than a 10-point font. Regular copy paper is fine. You can use some of that little bit glossier paper. You don't want to use any kind of cardstock or construction paper or stuff that's going to fall out and fall apart very easily in your book. And you can use different kinds of fonts for the story, but it should be really Times New Roman for the forms. And you can add some color in here and there too, but again, like I said earlier, you don't want to add in color that is very distracting or hard to read on the page. Also, you don't want to use a font that's hard to read, like Comic Sans or Script or something like that. So the easier it is to read, remember, when we judge these things at county and district, we can sometimes have 10 record books in a category. And so we're reading a lot of record books. And if you are wanting to, make it a little bit easier on the judge, try to make it an easy font to read. These are the categories that you can enter your record books in. There's a lot of different ones. ones. So if you don't have an idea of where your project fits into what category, please again let me know, and we will help you figure out what category you're supposed to be in. If you ever have any questions, give me a call here at the office, send me a Facebook message, a text message, anything, and I will get back to you as soon as I can with those answers. Our record book judging is going to be Thursday, June 19th. We are judging with Comal County again, and it will be at the Comal County Extension Office. I believe we start at 8:30, so if you would like to be a judge, it's a good way to learn record books. If you'd like to be a judge, please let me know. We'll get you signed up. We will pay for y'all to have lunch that day. There's also district judging in July, and you can sign up to help with that as well. We also pay for lunch that day. All of that information will be in the May-June newsletter, which will be coming out the mid part of May. And it will also be posted on Facebook. So again, if you ever have any questions, please let me know. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help y'all get this filled out. Record books are not always the most fun thing to fill out every year, but they do have a purpose, and they do help kids when it comes to having their information ready for awards and scholarships later in their 4-H career. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Have a good day.